So this will be a topic that Ryan asked me to do, but a bunch of people have been asking for it. So, and it is shooting bags. So front and rear bags. So right off, kind of just from a start, what's the purpose of bags, front and rear? In general, as an overview, it's to help you stabilize the rifle, not to stabilize the rifle for you. Okay, so that's something that people either get wrong or they do wrong or is common. All right, front bags. Uh, Front bags are rest for range use, so not hunting, just shooting. Mostly what I say applies to both prone and benched. I shoot prone, I almost never shoot at a bench anymore. However, for range use, we want a stable rest, so usually heavy and stable. And the front rest, the bag can be heavier. This is where you get into, the most stable, the most optimum, I guess, is the common, three-pronged or three-footed bench rests with a, leather V-shape or U-shaped front bag that's heavy with sand or whatnot. That's good. So first off, stable and heavy is good in this case, and leather is good because it provides some give. It's not hard and rigid, but it's not super soft and pliable moving around. But what it also does is allow the rifle to travel smoothly and consistently to the rear. It's slick. So we don't want any grabbiness in the front bag, or we want to limit the amount of grabbiness in the front bag. So you can do that. The other, really good one is like a waxed canvas for the same reasons. When they get dirty and start getting used, they become slippery and they're stable. So the waxing on the canvas helps them be a little less soft and pliable. And then the sand that usually goes in them, although lightweight fill works too, but sand or lead shot or whatever for the front does help and provide a more consistent, stable front rest while still allowing the rifle to recoil. You can use normal canvas, obviously works fine. What you don't want is something hard. So, or pinchy on the guns. We'll start with that. Like the front big, heavy, it's probably a foot by 9 inches by 8 or 9 inches wide bag that's filled with sand, and it's like long tubes that are tight and they pinch the front of your gun. That is controlling the rifle. We don't want that. We want the gun to be able to move freely. And with that type of bag, if you move left or right to get onto the target in the optic, so you shift left or right with the rifle, you push it or pull it, the bag is pinching the stock, which is now creating a torque point. And when it recoils, it can and will cause the rifle to recoil inconsistently and point of impact shifts to happen, or erratic groups, quote unquote. So we don't want that. We want the gun to slide freely in the bag and move. The other thing, we'll just get right off that, lead sleds are the devil. They should be burned in hell. Do not shoot guns off of lead sleds. Rifles have to move. They have to be able to be allowed to recoil. Even when you put a little bit of weight in a lead sled, it's like putting the rifle against a 2x4 and firing it. It breaks stocks, it screws up actions, it screws up scopes. And it causes a significant point of impact difference between the lead sled and how you actually shoot the rifle in the field. Lead sleds are the devil. Don't do them. Standard front shooting bag is what you want in general. The rest, you can get the common, bench rest, three-prong thing or whatever that's adjustable. I just use something heavy and stable. Historically, it's been an ammo can, like a surplus military ammo can filled with ammo or rocks or whatever, but it's heavy, stable, and square. It's got multiple sides to let you change the height. Last couple of years, I've been using a concrete block, just a standard cinder block. It's heavy and stable. You don't have to add anything to it. It's easy to carry. They're cheap. And unlike the ammo can, it's very rough, so it grips the bags, and the bags don't want to slip off of it. That's about it. For the front bags, just some firmness to the bag, but not hard. U-shape or V-shape. We don't want it pinching the rifle, and we want it want it to be slick and let the rifle recoil naturally. Rear bag, purpose. This is range and field. The big difference here is the mentality or the philosophy of the rear bag from how most use them and how most bags are made. And that is the shooter controls the rifle. Bags and or rests help you stabilize the rifle. So the shooter controls the rifle. The rear bag helps the shooter stabilize. Okay? It doesn't stabilize the rifle for you. So common rear bags, this is going to be a little bit bouncing all over the place. Common rear bags are stiff and hard. They're overfilled. And some of them are, thinking how to say this. So they're stiff and hard. Stiff and hard. They are too stiff and too overfilled. And what it forces you into is that all adjustments have to come from the front of the gun, or most adjustments have to come from the front of the gun, height adjustments. And that's okay to a point. But it means that the rear of the gun, you can only get small adjustments with a sloped toe line, so the angle on the bottom of the stock, which is bad for recoil, bad for spotting your shots, bad for consistent shooting and quickly shooting. And it makes you rest the rifle so the bag is supporting the rifle. That causes issues because the shooter isn't controlling the rifle anymore. So first we'll start with the slope toe line. So when you have a slope toe line, the way people use a hard bag is they slide them forward and backwards. And there's bags that are shaped like a wedge to go against the angle of the bag to even do that, which is just it's an attempt to correct a poor design to begin with. So whether you're using a shaped bag or a rectangle or whatever, not wedge-shaped rear bag, the problem is when it's overfilled and it's too stiff and the rifle is resting on the bag, is first when the rifle recoils, it slides. So the bag slides forward or the rifle slides back. That drops the butt of the rifle, raises the muzzle in effect. So it's helping recoil to work against you. So it's helping the gun recoil and move more than it should be, which means that you're less likely to spot shots or impossible to spot your own shots, and you have to resettle the gun. It also means you're dropping the rear of the gun down. So when we hunt and we log, all the things that happen in shots, we rarely miss wind calls. Almost never do we miss wind calls, even at long range and very heavy winds. The most common miss from prone is high. This isn't due to inaccurate data for elevation. It's primarily driven by the fact that everything about the gun is trying to get the muzzle to move up or the butt to drop down. Sloped toe lines on a stock do that. Hard bags do that on sloped toe lines. Also, when we flinch down or anticipate, we brace, we drop the rifle down lower, the muzzle goes up. In some cases, it's updrafts that we can't see, but that's actually relatively rare comparatively. Mostly the high misses are due to the rear bag, the rear of the gun dropping down as the rifle is shot. Slope toe lines suck for this, but they're exaggerated or exasperated, the issues, by a firm/hard rear bag that the rifle is resting against, or the toe line is resting directly on. Also, when you use a firm bag like that, a stiff bag with a lot of fill, and you squeeze the bag, so the gun is resting on the bag, you squeeze the bag. When you shoot, those sand and beads or whatever's in the bag will move. They'll shift a little bit, which drops the reticle or moves it left and right from the vibration. You can see this when you dry fire. So the reticle is really stable on the target. You dry fire and it pops left or right a little bit. You can eliminate or remove most of that by changing your body position to get directly behind the gun, etc., etc. But it's very critical in form, and when it does, and you never really can get totally rid of it. You can never totally eliminate the reticle hop or bounce, and it does show up on the target. So stiff rear bags that are overfilled have multiple things. One, with slope toe lines, they help the rifle move even more off target during recoil. They cause the rear of the stock to jump or bounce or settle at the shot. And then the most important one is, for the most part, the way they're designed and how you use them, the rifle is resting on the bag and you're grabbing the side of the bag or the front of the bag. You're not controlling the rifle. So then when we go to shoot, the rifle does what it wants to do. You have no control of the rear of the rifle except for your firing hand. But of course, the modern thing is to move the thumb off to the side of the rifle, so you don't even have control of that part now. So the only thing controlling is your shoulder. When you go to rack, because follow-up shots are a thing on living creatures, you go to rack, if you don't grab the rear of the stock, when you lift the bolt handle, the rifle torques and it comes off target because it's got tension to it. So now you have to grab the rifle or re-grip it or move the rifle back. It's just a disaster. It's an unnecessary compromise that doesn't have an upside, except that when you're just looking through the reticle, there's a slightly less wobble zone, generally. That's why people like it. Now let's juxtapose that over a proper field bag, which is also a proper range bag, which is soft and pliable, and you can say like shapeless and formless. So something that is a little bit longer than it is wide and has some thickness to it, right? So you're talking a elongated rectangle, or a rectangle with 2 or 3 inches thick and about 50% filled. The way we want to use a rear bag is in the common, we're laying prone or at a bench, but we're laying prone. The front of the gun is being rested on the front rest. The rear of the gun is being held by your 2 index fingers on your left hand, so your offhand, left hand for right-handed shooters, your offhand, not 2 index fingers, your thumb and your index finger on your offhand pinch the bottom of the stock, so the hand is coming lengthways with the stock. Thumb and index finger pinch that. The bottom 3 fingers and the palm of that hand pinch the bag and control the bag. So the thumb and index finger never come off the stock. That stays to control the rifle. The bottom 3 fingers manipulate the bag long ways, widthwise, or thickwise, or depthwise, I guess, to support the hand that is controlling the rifle. So most of the time when I shoot, the rifle isn't even touching the bag unless I've pinched the sides, like the cloth of the bag, around the rifle, just to help control the bag and the rifle at the same time, so it stays together during recoil. I'm controlling the rifle. The rifle is rested in the notch of my hand, the web between the thumb and the index finger. Thumb and index finger pinch the bottom of the stock. The bottom 3 fingers control the bag. So the downside, quote unquote, is you have a slight wobble zone because the rifle isn't being rested on something hard. Now, the difference when we're talking prone in the field or on a sandbag is, with a hard rear bag, you're looking at something like, the perfect little rest, 0 observable reticle movement on target, wobble zone. So I'm aiming in the center of a 1/4 MOA diamond or 1/4 inch diamond at 100 yards. I see no reticle movement, or less than 1/10 of MOA. With a soft rear bag like I'm discussing, you see about a 1/4 MOA of movement. So it stays on the dot, or it comes to just outside the edge, but that's it. Well, first off, the difference, even if that was a difference in actual precision size, it's not. But even if it is, 1/10 of an MOA or 2/10 of an MOA has no effect on shooting, has no effect on hit rates. And it's not. As long as the gun fires in the wobble zone, almost all the shots are going to fall into center. And the difference between having large shot groups, so 50 to 100 round shot groups with very precise guns, between a super stiff, stable, perfectly set up, whatever, front and rear bag in group size, and a good front rest but a soft rear bag, is about 1/10 of an MOA in 100 shot group sizes. It's nothing. You can't even observe it. You have to measure stupid high shot group sizes really precisely to see it. The benefit to a soft and pliable bag is I control the rifle. You control the rifle. So when the gun goes bang, I've got my left hand, my offhand, controlling the left to right, up and down movement of the gun. That hand is also controlling the bag, so they move together as one basically as one unit or one piece. The gun helps. It helps it for the gun to not recoil off the target, left, right, up, or down. When you go to rack, nothing has to move on your left hand. Just grab the bolt, rack the bolt, drop the bolt. You're still controlling the rear of the gun with positive control with your thumb and index finger through recoil and through manipulation. It also, because the bag is soft, when the gun recoils, you don't get that pop or hop in the reticle and the shifting of the fill in the rear bag. So say my wobble zone is terrible, and I'm using quotes here, terrible, prone, and it's a half MOA. So I'm going all over a half-inch dot. Okay, first off, I don't care. It doesn't going to change hit rates on anything, nor your zero or functional group size. But the difference is that the wobble zone is what it is. There's no weirdness that happens to the shot. The point of impact is consistent, and spotting your own shots and controlling the gun is consistent and available to you. When you use a rear bag or you use a bag and you let the bag stabilize the rifle and you grab the side of the bag so the gun is touching the bag, you lose all that. It's not as consistent. The gun moves more. You don't have positive control of the rifle. So, and I was exactly opposite of this 15 years ago. 15 years ago, I wanted a super stiff rear bag. I was told I was wrong by a buddy. I got a tab rear, I think it's tab, but I don't know the name of it. I don't think they make it anymore. But it was basically a reticle, 7, 8, 9 inches long, 5, 6 inches wide, 2 or 2.5 inches thick, 3 inches thick. Really overfilled, thought it was great. No, it was terrible in shooting. And after a couple of weeks of trying it, I threw it in the range bag, and I would actually just hand it to people for them to use because it sucked. And I went back to a really floppy, like bead-filled sock basically to shoot that was so much better in actually controlling the gun and field shooting. But after 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years, that bag had been squished and beat on so much that it now was about 40 or 50% fill, and it was great. And I started using it, and I've been using that bag for the last 5 or 6 years almost exclusively for range use. But I don't think they make it, and even if they do, you can't get it in the like 50% fill that you need. So Ryan and Jake were asking me what I use for a rear bag. I showed them. They asked if I wanted any modifications. I gave a couple of mods to it. They had them made. Ryan named it the Jellyfish because it's shapeless and formless. It's a rectangle. I think it's 5 inches wide, 7 inches long, 2.5 inches thick. And it comes like 60 or 70% filled, which is completely usable as it comes, but it will get compressed down a little bit to about 50%. It's a fantastic rear bag. This is not a plug to buy the rear bag. I don't care what you buy. It has nothing to do with me. As a rear bag, this thing just works. So on any rear bag, I would suggest not specific shapes. So wedge bags suck. Wedge bags are a compromise. They don't necessarily suck. I don't want a tube shape, so like a round tube shape rear bag because I lose height, width, and thickness adjustments. Want it rectangular, thick but not too thick, wide but not too wide, long but not too long. And it needs to be really soft and pliable. With that, you can rest it height-wise, grabbing it, so squeezing the bag in the middle to give you height. Width-wise, same thing. Depth-wise, so the bag flat. You can fold it over on itself. It's a lot more versatile. And when you shoot and watch the reticle movement through recoil, especially the moment you get away from a manicured range or a bench, a perfectly flat cement bench, that bag being soft and manipulatable is significantly better than a firm bag or a harder bag. If you were going to carry a rear bag for the field, that's what I would do, something like that. I think the Jellyfish is like 2.5 or 3 ounces. I don't know what it weighs. I don't care. I don't carry them hunting. It's just for range use for me. If you do, the Jellyfish is there. I'm sure other people make bags similar. To me, a bag is a bag. As long as it has the right shape and about 50% fill and it's soft and pliable, I don't really care. It should be slick. So it should be Cordura, leather, wax canvas, but not grabby and with rubber and all kinds of stupid stuff on it. Same thing. I don't want the bag fighting me. That rear bag's purpose is to help me stabilize the gun. I'm stabilizing and controlling the gun. The bag is stabilizing my hand that is controlling the gun. Okay. Now field rest. So that's for range use, front field rest, bags, primarily fronts. Look, V-shaped or U-shaped, light and strapped to the pack is the way we run. I'm not going to take a game changer and set it on. I mean, in general, I'm not taking a game changer and setting it on a rock because why am I going to carry a 5-pound bag or whatever it is, anyways? But that's just a separate implement. So my front rest use has been a backpack for the last decade plus, probably close to 15 years, as the almost sole hunting front rest. I mean, I do hunt with bipods. I use them a ton. I don't hunt with them in general. That's not the way I actually use a front rest. We did the bipod versus backpack. The reason why is in there. Using the backpack works great. I already have it. It's quick. It's fast to set up. In most situations, it works perfectly. The issue is when you're shooting across the slope. So the ground is higher on your right, lower on your left, or vice versa. So you're shooting across slope. The rifle wants to slide. This is also more exaggerated when you have a flat bottom stock. So the wider the stock is, the more it wants to slope and skid down. And the more the rifle wants to cant and stay perfectly parallel to the bag itself. Hence, rounded forends can be better. Now, I got around this by usually putting the lid on the downhill side. So when the rifle slid, it hit the lid and just kind of created a cradle. But it moves a little bit. It's a little hanky. You got to set it up. You can also flip it around so you're resting the rifle on the frame side. Most of the frames have padding that you can kind of wedge in and create a little cradle so it doesn't slide down. Overall, it was hinky and kind of janky. What I really wanted was, and kind of off and on look for it was, old school snipers would take foam sleeping mats, and duct tape and make like a U-shaped rest that they would tape to the back of their Alice pack. So just like a front rest on a range, they had this foam U-shaped rest. That's great. Weight was fine. The issue with it was, one, I was lazy and I never did it. But two was I don't want it taped to the straps or the back of the pack because I need to get into the straps. I need to be able to adjust them. That wasn't really a thing. There was a couple versions I saw that used like Velcro and stuff. Again, they were a little heavier than they should have been. The whole design just wasn't ideal. They weren't wide enough, so they couldn't span 2 compression straps on the back of packs. Enter Jake and Ryan. I hate giving them credit with the Molinator. Now, I think they designed that thing to be primarily a rear rest. Love them. That's not, for the reasons mentioned above, kind of stiffer, firmer rear rest is not the way. It certainly works for that. It's not ideal for a rear rest, but it is near perfect for a front rest on a backpack. Well, front rest, period. But running your compression straps through the handle straps on the Molinator, first off, the Molinator is like 4.5 or 5 ounces. So it's light enough that I would actually carry it. But you run the handles through it. That Molinator is about the perfect size. So all the stocks I have, it sits on the back of so it's strapped through the compression straps on the back of the frame or the back of the bag. So on slopes, the rifle just scoots in the U shape and it stops. Like it supports it. The wings on each side are tall enough to support the rifle so it doesn't slide off. It's slippery, it's light, it's sized correctly. The only issue with it was the straps ran horizontal to the bag on the sides. So when you'd run your compression straps through, it would tip the bag when you tighten them down. I used 2 lightweight carabiners from the side handles on the bag to the compression straps. Having seen what we did, I asked them if they would make a new version with the handles going vertical. So when you run the strap through it, it just cinches it straight down and keeps it on the bag. Again, I hate giving them credit. This is not a plug. If somebody else makes a front bag like that, let me know. That's cool. I don't care as long as it does the job. The Molinator is a really good field front bag. It's a really good front bag, period. But to strap on the top of on the back of your pack and just use it as a rest, it's fantastic. Rear bags for for field shooting. I don't carry one. Why? Because everything can be a rear bag. So the issue with a front, a stiff, firm, overfilled rear bag on the range is that it forces you, generally, you rest the rifle on the bag. If instead you pinch the stock, like I discussed, with your thumb and index finger, and the toe line was resting in the V, and the stiff bag didn't touch the gun, and your bottom 3 fingers and palm controlled the rear bag, well, that's fine. Now, it limits you because it's stiff in the rear bag, or stiff in height, so it limits you in height, but you can control the gun fine like that. If you want to carry a rear bag, great. I think Ryan does. I think it's silly because everything can be a rear bag. Probably 98% of the shots I take prone or on animals that are prone is with the bino harness as the rear bag. Push the bino harness up, grab the bino harness with the bottom 3 fingers, rifle goes in the V because my left hand is controlling the gun, so thumb and index finger pinch the stock, move the bino harness up and down sideways to create your height, you're done. I think it's the videos in the Rock Stock thread on Rock Slide, because there were certain people that claimed that the parallel toe, so a flat toe line parallel with the bore, wouldn't allow you to make adjustments. Some of them sell a bag that works perfectly with a sloped toe line, but hey, I don't know how anybody that's ever shot thinks that a parallel toe line doesn't let you make height adjustments, elevation adjustments rapidly. I think literally every or almost every chassis in PRS has a flat toe line on the bore rider and a flat forend, parallel forend, but whatever. But in that, I made a video showing massive elevation changes timed and very quickly with a Rock Stock. The point here is I did it with the tab bag, or maybe the first version of the Jellyfish, the bino harness, the binos just themselves, a rock, a stump, and I think a stick. As long as you are controlling the gun, anything under those 3 fingers or the bottom of your hand can be used to stabilize. You could take a knife, preferably in the sheath, hold the top of the handle with the bottom 3 fingers, put that into the dirt, pinch the stock between your thumb and index finger, you have a stable rear rest. Anything can be used to stabilize the rear, as long as, let me correct that, anything can be used to help you stabilize the rear of the rifle. So in the field, what we do, almost everyone I'm shooting with, everybody we teach, and what I do is use the bino harness as the rear bag. It works fantastic, even for silly long shots. Used it yesterday with that Browning 7 PRC to make first round hits on 20 by 24 inch targets at 1,140 yards. And I think I went 17 or 18 out of 20 on it in some hellacious wins, just using a Molinator front bag, like I discussed, and the bino harness as a rear bag. So I don't carry any rear bag, you can. So my field rest shooting is a Molinator strapped to the pack, and my bino harness or some other object to help me stabilize the rear of the gun. I think that answers it. This one went a little bit longer than normal. If you have any other questions on rear bags, I guess send the questions in and I'll try to address it.